The Agile Manifesto is a set of guiding values and principles for software development that prioritizes flexibility, collaboration, and customer centricity. Applying these principles to the takedown of the Death Star can offer some interesting insights. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. In the Rebel Alliance, the focus is less on strict military hierarchy and more on the individual strengths and talents each member brings. The interactions between Han, Luke, Leia, and other key figures prove more valuable than rigid protocols. This could be likened to the individual expertise that allowed for the discovery and exploitation of the Death Star's weakness. Working solution over comprehensive documentation. In an Agile approach, a working solution is far more valuable than exhaustive plans. The rebels had limited intelligence but enough to act. They didn't wait to have every detail about the Death Star, they had a working solution, a trench run that could exploit a critical flaw, and they executed it. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Agile emphasizes close collaboration with the customer, or stakeholder, instead of a fixed contract. From this perspective, the Rebel Alliance closely listened to the needs of the galaxy's citizens, their customers, suffering under Imperial rule, adjusting their strategies in real time rather than sticking to one set plan. Responding to change over following a plan. Agile is all about adaptability. The Rebel Alliance had to adapt quickly after the Death Star destroyed Alderaan and then targeted Yavin 4. They changed their plans based on new intelligence and the lived experience of their pilots and leaders. This adaptability ultimately led to their success. Underlying principles. Early and continuous delivery of value. The rebels didn't wait for a complete plan, they took steps to provide immediate value by undertaking the dangerous mission to rescue Princess Leia, who then provided the Death Star plans. Welcome changing requirements. Even late in the game, initially, the Rebel Alliance didn't know about the Emperor's new, more powerful Death Star. When they discovered this, they adapted their strategy late in the timeline to accommodate this new information, showing agility in their approach. Simplicity is essential. The Rebel Alliance didn't have the resources for a complicated plan with a high likelihood of failure. They relied on a simple, albeit risky, strategy focused on a single point of failure in the Death Star, reflecting Agile's focus on simplicity and minimalism. The 12 Principles of Agile in Death Star Takedown. Customer satisfaction. By early and continuous delivery of valuable software, the Rebel Alliance aimed for early and meaningful victories, such as rescuing Princess Leia, which delivered immediate value to their stakeholders, the oppressed people of the galaxy. Welcome changing requirements. Even in late development, when the rebels discovered that the Empire was aware of their plans, they quickly adapted their strategy for attacking the second Death Star. This flexibility is akin to welcoming changing requirements even late in a project. Deliver working software frequently, weeks rather than months. Although not software, the Rebel Alliance frequently demonstrated progress through smaller wins, like disabling the Death Star's shields, which built momentum for the ultimate goal. Close. Daily cooperation between business people and developers. The close collaboration between rebel leaders like Leia, strategy, and technical experts like Han and Chewie, execution, mirrors this principle of cooperation between different stakeholders. Projects are built around motivated individuals, who should be trusted. Luke, Leia, and Han were highly motivated and trusted to take significant responsibilities. They were the driving force of the mission, much like motivated individuals in Agile teams. Face-to-face conversation is the best form of communication. Co-location planning and communication were often done in person in the Rebel Alliance, most notably in the briefings before major battles. Working software is the primary measure of progress. For the rebels, the primary measure of progress was meaningful action, like the actual takedown of the Death Star's shield, rather than just plans or simulations. Sustainable development. Able to maintain a constant pace, the Rebel Alliance had to balance urgency with sustainability. They couldn't afford to burn out their limited resources and manpower before achieving their goal. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design. The rebellion's focus on skilled pilots and reliable technology, like the X-Wing fighters, reflects this principle of technical excellence. Simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. The rebels' plan was simple and direct. They had a single, clear goal: exploit the Death Star's vulnerability. This mirrors Agile's focus on simplicity. Best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Teams like those led by Luke, Han, and Leia were largely self-organizing, taking initiative and making crucial decisions on the fly. Regularly. The team reflects on how to become more effective, and adjusts accordingly. After the loss of Alderaan, and again after the Battle of Yavin, the Rebel Alliance had to regroup and rethink their strategies, continuously looking for ways to improve, much like an Agile team's regular retrospectives. Overview. In the context of the Death Star takedown by the Rebel Alliance, we can see how the Agile principles of iterative, incremental, and evolutionary approaches to problem solving would apply. Iterative planning and adaptation. Each major mission, like the rescue of Princess Leia or the attack on the Death Star, could be considered an iteration with specific objectives. After each mission, the Rebel Alliance would regroup, evaluate their successes and failures, and plan their next sprint. Stakeholder feedback. At the end of each major mission, the results were assessed not just by military leaders but also by the larger group of stakeholders, including political leaders and the rebel soldiers. This iterative process allowed for adjustments in strategy and tactics. Incremental. Small wins. The Alliance didn't aim to take down the entire empire in one go. Instead, they scored smaller victories, incrementally weakening the empire's grasp and boosting morale among the rebels. Each win was like a market release that validated their approach and provided lessons for future battles. Risk mitigation. By taking an incremental approach, they also minimized the risk of total failure. For instance, the destruction of the Death Star was a significant but incremental step toward defeating the Empire. Had the mission failed, it would have been a setback, but not the end of the Alliance. Evolutionary. Adaptive strategy. The Rebel Alliance's approach evolved over time. They adapted their strategies based on what they learned from both their successes and their failures. This evolutionary approach is similar to how Agile teams adapt over time, learning from each sprint. Technical refinements. Just as software products improve incrementally in Agile development, the Rebel Alliance also made technical refinements to their spacecraft, weaponry, and strategies as they gained more knowledge and experience. Speed to market and risk mitigation. The Rebel Alliance needed quick wins to build momentum and keep their cause alive. Their incremental and iterative approach allowed them to bring products, i.e., successful missions or strategies, to their market, i.e., the galactic battlefield, more quickly and adapt to new information or conditions, thus reducing the time and cost risks. In essence, the Rebel Alliance's strategy for taking down the Death Star and fighting the Empire aligns well with Agile methodologies. Each mission served as an iteration that contributed to the incremental weakening of the Empire, with strategies and tactics evolving along the way based on experience and feedback. In the context of the Rebel Alliance's mission to take down the Death Star, the Agile principle of efficient and face-to-face communication holds significant relevance. Efficient and face-to-face communication. War room meetings. Much like Agile development teams prefer face-to-face conversations, key Rebel Alliance meetings were conducted in person. Decision-makers like Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Luke Skywalker came together to quickly assess situations and devise plans. Even in a galaxy where advanced communication methods exist, nothing replaced the clarity and understanding achieved through in-person dialogue. Co-location. While the Rebel Alliance was spread across various planets and systems, crucial team members came together when it mattered most, much like a co-located Agile team. This was especially true for high-stakes missions like the Death Star takedown. While remote work may be feasible in some contexts, for missions of critical importance, being physically present enabled rapid adjustments and real-time decision-making. Customer representative and stakeholder involvement. Role of the customer representative. In the Rebel Alliance, figures like Princess Leia or Mon Mothma acted as the customer representatives. They were there to provide the voice of the customer, representing the broader stakeholder community, in this case, the galaxy at large. End of mission reviews. After key milestones or missions, a debriefing was held to evaluate what went well and what needed improvement, similar to a sprint review in Agile methodologies. These sessions included not only the core team but also other stakeholders to ensure that the mission objectives were being met and were aligned with the overall goals of defeating the Empire. Information Radiator. Mission Status Board. In an Agile setting, an information radiator provides an at-a-glance view of project status. In the Rebel Alliance, this could be equated to mission status boards or holograms displayed in common areas. They would give quick updates on various mission elements, fleet status, Death Star's vulnerability points, or even the readiness level of the rebel troops. Real-time indicators. Much like build light indicators in Agile teams that show the build status, the Rebel Alliance could have real-time indicators that show the status of crucial mission elements like the shield generator's status or the number of available X-Wings for the next attack phase. In summary, The principles of efficient and face-to-face communication, stakeholder involvement, and real-time information display could be directly translated into strategies employed by the Rebel Alliance in their mission to take down the Death Star. Very short feedback loop and adaptation cycle. Rebel daily briefings. Similar to the Agile daily stand-up, Rebel Alliance leaders could hold rapid briefings to sync everyone on mission goals. Pilots, engineers, and leaders would discuss what was accomplished, what needs to be done, and any obstacles. Detailed strategy discussions could be postponed, but having these brief meetings ensures everyone stays on target quite literally. Quick adaptation. A very short feedback loop means that the Rebel Alliance could quickly adapt to new intelligence or unexpected Imperial countermeasures. For instance, if new information about the Death Star's defenses became available, teams could pivot strategies on the spot, just as Agile teams adapt to changing requirements. Quality focus. Continuous testing. In the Rebel context, this could equate to continuous simulation runs or war games to validate if the strategies for attacking the Death Star are sound and adapt based on the outcomes, much like automated unit testing in Agile methodologies. Best practices. While Agile development focuses on best coding practices, the Rebel Alliance would share and implement the best practices for space combat, stealth infiltration, and more, refining these practices over time. Philosophy. Emergent requirements. In Agile, design and requirements are often emergent. The Rebel Alliance also had to adapt to new challenges and opportunities, adjusting their mission requirements as new intelligence came in or conditions on the battlefield changed. Adaptive vs. Predictive. Rolling wave planning. The Rebel Alliance would do well to adopt a rolling wave approach to planning their missions, fixing milestones like disable the Death Star's shield but allowing flexibility in how to reach that milestone. They need an adaptive approach given the high unpredictability of war against a powerful empire. Adaptive team. A team prepared to adapt to new challenges, even if it cannot predict them all in advance, is a valuable asset. The Rebel Alliance's adaptive capabilities would make them agile and ready to face uncertainties, from force fields to unexpected Imperial fleets. Risk analysis. Value-driven methods. Given the high-stakes, dynamic environment, the Rebel Alliance would most likely benefit from a value-driven, agile approach rather than a highly structured, predictive one. The situation demands rapid responses to changeover following a fixed plan. Senior developers, leaders in Agile. Senior developers are crucial for value-driven methods. In the Rebel Alliance, experienced leaders and pilots like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker were critical for quick decision-making and strategy adjustments. By following these principles, the Rebel Alliance could dramatically increase their chances of swiftly and successfully taking down the Death Star, while adapting to the challenges that such a complex mission inevitably presents. Agile vs. Waterfall in Death Star Takedown. Approach to strategy and adaptation. Agile, iterative strategy. In an Agile framework, Rebel Alliance could run several sprints consisting of smaller missions to gather intelligence, probe defenses, and perform minor sabotage before the main attack. Each sprint would have its objectives and could be adjusted based on the results of the previous one. Waterfall, linear strategy. In a waterfall approach, the Rebel Alliance would meticulously plan every detail of the mission from start to finish. Once the mission began, there would be little room for deviation. Quality and testing. Agile, testing and quality checks would be built into each sprint. For example, new X-Wing weaponry would be tested in skirmishes before being approved for the primary mission. Waterfall, all quality checks, such as testing the Death Star plans and training pilots, would happen in isolated phases before the mission's execution. Flexibility and adaptation. Agile, high. Unexpected issues like new Imperial defenses or the capture of a key team member could be adapted to in the next sprint. Waterfall, low. The entire plan would need to be revisited and revised, delaying the mission and potentially causing missed opportunities. Documentation vs. Action. Agile, the focus would be more on real-time intelligence and combat readiness than on comprehensive documentation. Just enough planning to make informed decisions. Waterfall, extensive documentation would be prepared in advance, detailing every aspect of the mission. Methods and practices. Agile methods, practices like daily Rebel briefings, akin to daily stand-ups, and sprint retrospectives to assess what went well or didn't in smaller missions would be common. Waterfall methods, formal stages like requirements gathering, collecting all intelligence on the Death Star, design, planning the attack in detail, and testing, simulating the attack, would be done sequentially. Recommended methodologies for DeathStar takedown. Adaptive strategy development, ASD. Given the high stakes and rapidly changing environment, a more adaptive and flexible strategy would be beneficial. Agile modeling, for planning and simulating different attack scenarios on the Death Star, similar to Agile modeling. Continuous integration, CI. A continuous integration of new intel and resources into the mission plan. Cross-functional team, teams with diverse skills, pilots, engineers, intelligence agents, working closely together, similar to Agile's emphasis on cross-functional teams. Retrospective, after each minor mission or sprint, a review would be crucial to adapt future strategies. In the Rebel Alliance's operation to take down the Death Star, adopting certain Agile practices would not just be advantageous, it could be crucial for success. Below, we discuss how some Agile practices could be adapted to this hypothetical, galaxy-saving project. Acceptance Test-Driven Development, ATDD. In the context of the Death Star takedown, ATDD would involve representatives from the Rebel Alliance, customers, Rebel pilots and engineers, developers, and tacticians, testers. Before a specific mission plan is locked in, these stakeholders could define acceptance tests that the plan must meet. These could be criteria like must disable the Death Star's main weapon or must ensure the survival of at least 75% of the fleet. Acceptance tests, in this scenario, ensure everyone understands the mission's goals and constraints, allowing for better decision-making and mission adaptation if needed. Agile modeling. In a fast-changing environment, like a galactic rebellion, Agile modeling would focus on creating just enough models and documentation to meet the current needs. Rebel strategists could use this approach to model potential attack strategies against the Death Star, while also leaving room for improvisation and adaptability based on real-time battlefield intelligence. Agile testing. The cross-functional team, including tacticians with specialized experience, would work together to ensure that every mission objective is testable in real-time scenarios. These could involve field tests of sabotage techniques, mock aerial battles, and simulated system hacks. Product backlog. A backlog could help the Rebel Alliance prioritize mission objectives and features of the Death Star that must be targeted or neutralized. The backlog might include tasks like acquire Death Star blueprints, identify critical weaknesses, and develop new proton torpedoes. Behavior-driven development, BDD. BDD could be used to specify the behavior of the Rebel fleet in different scenarios. When Death Star aims its primary weapon at a Rebel planet, then Rebel fleet must execute evasive maneuvers. Continuous integration. Constant intel and battle feedback would be integrated into the mission strategy continuously. This could involve recon updates, tech improvements, and lessons learned from failed or partially successful operations. Cross-functional team. A team consisting of pilots, engineers, intelligence agents, and field soldiers would work together to cover all bases, ensuring that everyone is on the same page and that the mission is approached in a holistic manner. Daily stand-up. Quick daily briefings could keep everyone updated on the mission status, newly discovered intel, and what each team is working on. This ensures that everybody is aligned, and helps to identify roadblocks quickly. Method tailoring. Given the uniqueness and high stakes of the mission, method tailoring would be essential. While frameworks like Scrum could serve as a starting point, the Rebel Alliance would likely need to adapt and modify these to fit the needs of a galactic-level operation. Tailoring could be informed by real-time battlefield data, the specific skills of available team members, and the evolving tactics of the Empire. By thoughtfully integrating these Agile practices, the Rebel Alliance would be better positioned to adapt to unforeseen challenges, iterate on their strategies quickly, and hopefully succeed in their mission to take down the Death Star.